Hey everybody, this is Kelly Nichols from LA Guns, and you're listening to rockmusicstar.com.
Welcome to the Glam Metal Interview Series, presented by rockmusicstar.com, with host Thomas S. Orwat Jr.
Hey everyone, this is Thomas from rockmusicstar.com with a brand new interview. It is May 7th, 2020, and I just got off the phone with Kelly Nichols of LA Guns. During this interview, Kelly talks about how he is navigating through the COVID-19 pandemic, the new LA Guns single Crawl, his thoughts about the two different versions of LA Guns, and much more. So here he is, Kelly Nichols of LA Guns. Hey Kelly, thank you for joining us. How are you holding up during these crazy times?
Well, thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. I'm staying busy, and we're staying healthy, and just trying to stay safe and keep our eye on the weather and see what's happening, you know?
Kelly, the reason we're talking today is because you are back in LA Guns after being away for almost 20 years, and you just recently released a new killer track called Crawl. What was the process behind this song?
Sure, thanks so much. Well, we ended up getting a record deal after our show at M3 last year, and the record company Golden Robot Records wanted us to get into the studio pretty quickly. So we actually all live in 4 different states right now, so we had to figure out logistically how to do this. So we started writing and sending songs to each other through email, and I wrote Crawl's the first song I've written in 25 years, and everybody wrote some songs and brought in what they had, and we picked our top 10. So there's 10 songs on the record. There's two ballads and 8 rockers, and put it together as best we could, and flew to LA, a couple of days of rehearsals, and 7 days in the studio to record it. That's it.
Yeah, it's a great song. I mean, it's one of those songs
Thank
that
you.
the more you listen to, the more you really start to admire the song. I like its uniqueness,
Cool.
in that I like your bass solo that you have in there. That's pretty
Thanks.
cool. Yeah, that's cool. And there's not really a guitar solo in it, which is kind of unusual for an LA Guns song.
Yeah, that song, well, as soon as I wrote that song, I had to label it when I saved it. I had to give it a name, and I just felt like it was a crawl. So I called it Crawl, and then when I finished it, I never even thought about putting a guitar solo in it, because it's just a grinding, that grinding guitar that comes in after the bass solo was just so cool that I was happy with it. I mean, the other songs all have lead solos, so you're just going to have to kind of get through one of them without, a little lead solo. But it was more bluesy kind of. It was like industrial blues, I felt. So it just didn't feel a solo fit the vibe of it, really.
When is the record coming out? Do you guys have a confirmed release date yet for Renegades?
Well, the record is completely done, mixed, mastered, recorded, artwork's all done, everything's done. It's sitting in a vault right now in Australia, and we're just kind of waiting to, we're waiting it out. We're seeing what happens with, the world, and so lately we've been thinking of putting out another single first before the album, and possibly try to do a video as well for it. And we've got to figure that out, because everybody lives in a different state. So we have to see if we could, logistically all fly somewhere and figure it out. And, that's where we're at right now for us. Hopefully not too much longer for the album. I mean, I'm dying for it to come out. I'm real happy with it. And we're looking forward to the feedback and everybody enjoying it. We'll have to see. Hopefully not too much longer.
Yeah, I really hope you guys drop another single soon, because, to be quite honest with you, there's really not much going on, I mean, we need something to look forward to, us rock fans, now that we can't go to rock concerts, so we really, we would love to hear a new song,
Yeah, well, I got a whole album's worth of stuff ready to come out, so you just got to hang in there. And, we're as anxious as everybody else to hear it. We're as anxious for you all to hear it.
Yeah. I want to talk about the artwork. I have to give you a lot of credit for the logo that you designed. I mean, that is so eye-catching. It is amazing. I mean, I think it's the best LA Guns logo. I mean,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just I just wanted to give us, since this was happening as this situation is with the two versions, I thought it was important for us to have our own identity. So that was one of the first things I tackled when, I agreed to play with Steve. We talked about how about, redesign the logo and see if we come up with something cool to give us our own vibe. And I put, everything I do, I try to put the band members' names on it so it's clear who's in this version and what's going on, and not trying to fool anybody or anything like that. So we're just trying to keep it legit, but I wanted to give us our own vibe on it, our own take on it. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now speaking of the band, at what point did you come in as far as this current lineup goes? I know that Steve Riley was approached by M3 about putting together a lineup, and I know there was some back and forth about who was going to be in the lineup. When were you involved, and did you have any influence on either Scotty or Kurt being recruited into the band?
Well, they've been asking Steve for like the last 3 years to put a version of the band together. Apparently the other guys didn't want to play M3. So they just keep asking Steve to put a version together with some of the alumni, some of the guys who have played in the band. And he always said no. And then he finally, agreed to do it and kind of called me right away and asked me if it was something I was interested in. And the timing was good for me. My daughter was going to college and I felt like I had some time to, get back into it. So he called me, we talked for a couple hours that night and, talked about the whole thing and if it's worth doing, if we could do it right, and then who else is going to play. And he mentioned that Scotty, could play guitar, and I was like, you mean, Scotty could play all those parts? And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. So Scotty, I'd already met him a few times, always thought he was a great guy right away, so that was easy. And then Scott knew Kurt somehow, or a friend who knew Kurt, so Kurt was suggested to us, and we ended up talking with Kurt. He sent us a tape of his stuff, and we thought he was really good. We flew him out to LA for an audition, and we met him and got along really well with him. He's a super talented guy and a super nice guy, easygoing, and that's what we wanted, a stress-free environment, man. We just wanted to, people who enjoy playing and are happy to be in the band. And we were lucky to get him because we could have been auditioning singers for months, but really felt that he had a good range in his voice, and he's got an easy to listen to voice, perhaps a broader appeal. And it was just easy. So then we just took it from there. It really came together pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, the band, from the footage that I've watched so far from the two shows you've played, you guys definitely have a good chemistry. On stage. The song Crawl is amazing, so kudos for you on that also. It seems like the four of you guys are a decent band. Now I kind of have to mention the other LA Guns too, to get your opinion on what Tracii and Phil have been saying. Obviously they're not too happy about this. There's a pending lawsuit, I guess, from Tracii.
Right.
What kind of you said before you didn't really want to be in a stressful environment. Well, maybe the guys you're hanging out with aren't giving you any stress, but there's got to be a little stress coming from the other side, from the other band.
Well, the thing is that we always got along really well back in the day. We never really had any major issues or fights, and we all had the goals and visions, and we all stayed pretty true to it during the time. And the nastiness hasn't really ever been there until I started playing with Steve in this version, and they have said some pretty unkind things to us, but we're not going to be dragged into that. We know what we're doing. We're just we're in our 50s, and we're lucky to be alive, and we're lucky to be able to do this again. And we feel that we've have as much of the right to those songs as those guys do. That we put in the same amount of effort as everybody, and that we were part of the success of it, and that we earned the right to play it. And Steve has a legal right, and he feels that he's earned it. He's never quit. He's he's played every show since the first record came out, and he's always been there. And we've all left him. Mick, me, Tracii, Phil, we've all quit, and he's always been the constant. And so, he wanted to call it LA Guns, and I'm like, okay, dude, I'm not going to argue with you. If you feel that strong about it, and I totally get it. So, that's an unfortunate situation, but it is what it is. But I try to make it as clear as possible to the fans that are trying to figure it out that, this is who's in this version, but we're just going to keep doing our thing. We're trying not to hurt anybody, not trying to fool anybody, just trying to play some music. And we feel fortunate to be able to do that at this age, and that there's still an audience for it. So, we're grateful. We're just having a good time.
Yeah. Have you heard the new song from the other LA Guns yet?
Yeah, no, I think it just came out. I haven't had a chance to hear it yet, but, I hope it's good. And I always wish them luck, and I always hope they were doing well, even when I wasn't playing with Steve through the years. Every time I heard about LA Guns, I was always hopeful that, I heard good news that, people went to the show and that they were good, or that they got new songs that are good. So, I wish them the best all the time. I don't really care what they say about me or us. I have, I still have a lot of respect for them and good feelings about them. And we shared an experience together. And that's how I like to look at it, but we're just doing this thing because we want to play too. And, we feel like we have the right to the music. So we're going to just go out and have fun. Yeah.
I want to go back and, go back to the very, beginning of your career. You started off in Faster Pussycat. Unfortunately, you had a pretty major accident, a motorcycle accident, correct?
Yeah.
Did you when you were with Faster Pussycat, did you record, do any of the demos for the first record with them? At what point did you have your accident and you weren't participating with them anymore?
Well, I had done a few shows with them and stuff. I don't remember if we recorded any demos, but I had the accident the night that we got the record deal. So,
oh, Jesus.
Yeah, we went to our manager's house, which was Vicky Hamilton at the time, and we got a record deal. We signed with Elektra Records, and we had a little party. I had my motorcycle. I had one beer that night, so I was fine. We decided to go rehearse a little bit because we were excited. It was like, let's go jam. So we left the party, and on the way to the studio, a car made a left turn in front of me at an intersection, and I clipped its bumper with my leg on the bike, and I just went flying. I broke my leg in 7 places. I spent almost 3 months in the hospital. I had 10 surgeries, and I had to be let go from Faster Pussycat. So, it was a hard time because I've trying to get a record deal for years, and I finally get one, and on that night I get hit by a car. It's like unreal. So
that is unreal.
They all came to the hospital to visit me and explain the situation that Elektra wanted them to get into the studio and start recording this thing, and it was clear I wasn't going anywhere. So I totally understood. I wish them the best of luck. I mean, I just talked to Tammy a few weeks ago. He was there. He had his hand on my leg. He was covered in blood. We went through a traumatic experience together, and so we have this bond that we'll always have of this night. And kept me calm and everything. And so I was grateful for the time, but I totally understood. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to stop your guys' momentum and your careers either. So it was all cool. We were still friends, and it was just a weird situation for me, so I just sat there knowing that I'm missing out and everything. It was tough to get through, but I tried to stay positive, and eventually got out of the hospital, went home to see my parents in New York, and I was out with my friend and my mom. I got home and my mom said, this guy Tracii from LA called, and instantly I knew he was going to ask me to join LA Guns, which he did. So I flew back to LA a couple days later and started up with them.
Yeah, and you guys put out an amazing record, 1988 self-titled LA Guns record. I remember at the time when that came out, I mean, it was pretty I remember Faster Pussycat, Guns N' Roses, and LA Guns kind of being about at the same level when that came out.
Yeah, well, that Guns N' Roses came out like 6 months before ours, and that really just started to explode and everything. So a lot of people thought we had taken the name Guns because they were doing well, but it's Tracii Guns is the Guns at Guns N' Roses. So we had to explain that a lot, that this is where the Guns came from. So, but it was a good time for that. That scene was happening anyway. So a lot of bands did fairly well, and wrote some good songs in that period, and a good vibe, a good, happy, healthy vibe back then in the 80s. Everybody was just having a good time rocking out. It wasn't political, it wasn't super serious lyrics or too meaningful, but it was fun. It just happened to be like, it was a good time. It was a good time party in the 80s.
Then the next year you followed up with Cocked and Loaded. What was the vibe like in the band during that time?
Well, that was good. I mean, the first record, you can't believe that you finally got a record deal and that you get to do this. And then, by the second record, it's like, I enjoy what I'm doing here. I want to keep this going. So, trying to write the best songs you can at the time, and, young songwriters, and trying to give us our own style and our own vibe. And, the budget's getting a little better, and then people are waiting for the second record, see what you're going to deliver. So there's some expectations and pressures and stuff, but you're having fun, and you're still just making music. So you just try to keep it in check, but it gets a little more serious if you start doing well. People expect more of certain things, and you have to try to deliver. So that's where your mind is at,
Yeah. Was that how it was in 1991 when you put out Hollywood Vampires? I mean, did you have a lot of pressure from the record companies and management to take it up a couple notches?
Yeah, I think you always do. I mean, like I remember the record company sent us at one point, sent Mick and I to Canada to write with Bryan Adams' songwriting partner. And, they wanted us to start sounding like Bon Jovi, or like, if a band was really successful, they want you to kind of jump on that bandwagon. And we're like, we're not like that. So I had a terrible time up there. The guy wanted to start recording at 8 o'clock in the morning while he's feeding his kids breakfast, and I'm like, I'm not into this. I'm a vampire, man. I want to, I do my stuff at night. So that was a tough. But they're wanting hits. They want you to if something's successful, they want you to jump on it. So you have to always try to fight for your individual freedom and what you're trying to say. It's like when you're an artist, it's hard when somebody else is trying to tell you what you should sound like, because hey, this guy's really successful with this ballad, so write a ballad. And so it's tough. It's a little tough like that, but you try to stay true to what you're doing and what and I think that's what we did.
Yeah, you went on a pretty big tour that year with AC/DC. I think you guys were on tour right when the record came out, or very close to when the record came out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's possible, because I mean, it was it was rehearsal, it was pre-production, writing songs for months, then the studio for months, then touring for months, and then repeat, and so that was pretty much like 24-hour job constantly. You go in and you write the next record, you record the next record, and you go out and promote and tour the next record. So, but yeah, of course, when we got the phone call that we had shows with AC/DC, I mean, we all went through the roof, because that's arenas and stuff, and that's like big crowds, and that's like real production, and we were super excited, big fans of the band. Anyway, I saw AC/DC when I was a kid with Bon Scott open up for Ted Nugent at Madison Square Garden. So
wow.
To be able to open up for them, a decade later was an amazing experience, and we got to play Madison Square Garden with them too. So that was just an incredible night. So, and they were all super nice. Like all the big bands are super nice. They give you extra lights, they'll give you extra stage room. They don't care, because as soon as AC/DC comes on, you forget who opened for, you just like, they're so amazing and powerful that you just get caught up in it. So they don't have to worry about anybody showing them up or anything, so they're really nice. And it was always a good experience with Def Leppard, Cheap Trick, and AC/DC. Twice we did 2 tours with AC/DC, so that was cool. Ted Nugent, he was nice, and the guys in his band. So yeah, we had a good time. It's when you get to touring with the bands that are kind of on your level that the petty shit comes out,
Yeah.
But with the big bands, they know what they're doing. They're already successful. They're already established. They're not worried about anything. So there's that.
Yeah. And the Hollywood Vampires, which came out in 1991. I mean, that was a rough time period for hard rock, glam metal type bands. Were you kind of disappointed personally that record didn't do a little better after so much time and money was put into it?
I don't know, man. There's always a lot of factors. When Nirvana came out, everything changed, fashion changed, music changed, attitudes changed, what they were singing about changed, and rightfully so, man. Keeps it fresh, and it was bound to happen. So, again, you just always try your best, but there's always, factors. There's other bands that are successful. There's other stuff going on in the world, and there's new music coming out. Rap's coming out. AIDS was coming. So a lot of things were changing in the early '90s.
Yeah, and then you guys put a record out in '94 called "Vicious Circle," which is actually one of my favorite LA Guns records. Pretty solid
Thanks.
record. Seems a little angry perhaps. You made your vocal debut with "Nothing Better to Do" on there, which is really a fan favorite song. I hope you guys are doing that when if there's ever concerts again. I hope that when I see you guys, you perform that.
Yeah, thanks. I did it at M3. I'll do it.
Oh, you did do it at M3. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Great. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So going back to Vicious Circle, I don't really remember much promotion from your label at the time.
The our A&R guy said, at least you went out on a great record. And I was like, the hell does that mean, man? Like we put all this work into it, but they're not going to, promote it or sell it or push it or, back it. And at the time, you needed a record company to get to get that advertising and that attention. Today you have different outlets with the internet and stuff and your own Facebook page, so you can fine tune that. But without the record company's help back then, it wasn't really going to go far. But I was just like taken aback, when he said, at least you went out on a great record. I was like, kind of knew it was over. I was, to deal with that.
How shortly after that record did you leave the band?
Well, I say Mick left first, and Phil left, and then Tracii and Steve and I started to. I hung out a little bit longer, and we started auditioning singers, and I didn't really feel that any of them were capturing what I felt we should be doing, and I felt they wanted to go in a little different direction. I think Tracii wanted to get heavier, more into. He was into Pantera a lot back then, so I think they wanted to get into heavier stuff like that, and I just wasn't feeling it. And so I felt like, maybe it's run its course and it's time to take a break and, try something else. I eventually got a stepdaughter and a daughter, so wanted to stay home and take care of them. So I had to change my lifestyle a bit and try to, just reinvent myself and find other things to do.
Yeah, and what were some of the other things that you found to do for yourself?
Well, I started in 1993. I started getting into computer graphics. My brother was designing on a Mac already, and so I would go over to his house and hang out with him, and I could start seeing like the cool stuff he was doing. And then the internet was coming around, and so I went and I got some big old desktop computer, and and I started learning that, and now I have my own design company called Montauk Salvage Company, and I design logos and stuff for people, and I do computer graphics and websites and stuff like that, and logo design, and I do my own merch and my own kind of ideas that I just want to do for myself. So, you know, I wanted to find another way to be creative. If I couldn't play music, I had to, you know, I wasn't just going to jump in and start, you know, sitting behind a desk in an office. Like, you know, I had to figure out another way to make some income and be creative and, you know, enjoy my life still. So I was always into photography and stuff like that. So, you know, I just been chipping away at that. But I've done, you know, all kinds of things, really. I've done construction, carpentry. I've been working on a shark cage diving boat off of Montauk for the last 2 years. So I always just bounce around and you know, do things, whatever I can do.
This concludes our interview with Kelly Nichols of LA Guns. I hope that you enjoyed it. For more interviews, please check out rockmusicstar.com. For more on LA Guns, including merchandise, visit laguns.net. And finally, we'd like to thank Eric Robner of the Buffalo, New York based band Nerds Gone Wild for providing us with our kick-ass theme music.